Welcome to another episode of Featured Interviews with BW Businessworld. Our esteemed speakers today are Bob Meese, the Chief Business Officer from Duolingo, Rohelio Alvarez, the Vice Chairman of Business and General Manager, and Carrie Wang, Head of Duolingo English Test and Regional Business Lead in Asia. Since its launch in 2012, Duolingo has become one of the leading ways of enhancing linguistic skills for its global audience. It offers more than 500 languages on its app, ranging from Spanish, Korean, German to High Valyrian. At present, India is one of its leading markets and hosts one of the largest number of users for its Duolingo English Test. So firstly, thank you so much for joining for the interview. My first question will be for Bob. So Duolingo has been ranked first in the category of education in both Apple and Google Play Store. So can you talk a little bit about Duolingo's growth strategy in India and how is it looking at its roadmap going forward?
Yes, yeah. So thank you so much for the time today and happy to speak with you about Duolingo and its growth. Yes. And so when we think about the growth strategy for Duolingo in India, it's quite similar to our overall global growth strategy as well, too, where for us, we always sought to make a high quality product and to put the vast majority of our resources into providing a high quality product that people love themselves and love to tell others about. And so the investment went into product, and the primary way that we've been growing is through word of mouth. And so that's been our overall global growth strategy since the beginning. And that has played out as well in India too. And so in India in particular, we were fortunate where just before the pandemic, we started to get more serious about growing in the Indian market. And that timing proved very fortuitous, where we were trying some early tests, getting to understand the local market a little bit more differently and why our product, it was already resonating in India before we were even here. But part of the pattern we have is to invest in making the product better globally, and then to understand local market insights. And so we were doing that just before the onset of the pandemic. We grew very quickly, but it's important to remind people that we're not just a pandemic story. We've actually grown very quickly in the years as the world has opened up post the pandemic as well, too. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into our growth overall for the Duolingo consumer learning app in India.
So I know that India is one of the leading countries that for English speakers. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is really driving the motivation for the Indian population or the global population as a whole, in fact, to learn various languages apart from their own?
And so you say English speakers is big in India, or could you just explain the question a little bit more so I understand?
Sure. So what is the motivation for speakers to really become multilinguistic? Why do you think they are actually choosing to learn more than one languages to speak and converse?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And there are multiple different motivations for us. As you mentioned, we teach many different languages. We teach 41 different languages on Duolingo. English is the most popular, and the motivations for English tend to be different than some of the others, where there is economic opportunity, economic mobility. We're here in India this week, and it's been fun to interact with people of all different levels of proficiency here as well, too. And especially, the folks that are in service roles here, oftentimes they're practicing their English with us, it feels like, as well, too. And so for learning English, there is really an opportunity around economic mobility. However, there's other motivations as well, too, where we released a report recently around an India report card, where we showed that people learning French, like yourself, and Korean and Spanish are actually quite popular languages for people in India to learn as well, too. And when we think about those people, they are more international Indians as well, too, where the profile of that person might be more similar to somebody in the UK, in the United States, and Canada, where they're curious global citizens who are interested in learning about other cultures. And so it's less around economic mobility or something that's more economic in nature, and it's more around education, curiosity, learning about other cultures.
Okay. My next question I would like to ask Carrie is on the Duolingo English Test. So if you can give me an understanding about how the test is actually functioning, how it is being launched, and how it is being conducted within the Indian population.
Yeah, of course. And Rohelio will keep me honest since he is the founding father of the Duolingo English Test. The Duolingo English Test is Duolingo's take on what a traditional test of English should look like in this day of age when everything has begun and in some industries has largely shifted online. And so for students of English, oftentimes when you need to progress to the next level of education, for example, you want to get admitted to a university in a different country, let's say an Indian student wants to study in the US for a master's program, they're often asked to prove their English proficiency. And previously, the options are pretty limited. There are one or at most two options students have. And for the past 50, 60 years, the method of delivery has not changed. You kind of go to a physical location, they give you pen and paper, or they give you a computer and you take this 3-4 hour test that's not customized at all. And for students, it's a very arduous process. It's pretty expensive. It's $200-$300. And from our research, $200-$300 in a lower middle income family can be the income of the entire family. And then not to mention students often have to travel quite a long distance, sometimes outside of their town or city, just to be able to access a test center. And they also have to probably wait for a couple of weeks to get an appointment. So as the leader within language learning and English learning, a lot of students have actually come to us seeking a solution to this challenge, which is having limited access to ways of proving their proficiency to then advance in their education or to immigrate to another country. And that's how the Duolingo English Test was born. And for us, we deliver the same result. You can prove your English proficiency and you can share that with a university or with a school. But our experience is entirely online. Students don't have to travel. They can log on to our website, download an app, and take this test on their computer without leaving their home, as long as there's internet connection. And we've priced the product to be a fraction of what traditional tests cost because we're a mission-oriented company and we want our product to be able to provide access to everyone in India, as opposed to those who have the means to take expensive tests that exist in the market today. And so we're very proud that for students who are now thinking about going to the US or Canada, the DET, the Duolingo English Test, is oftentimes a equivalent to traditional tests. So instead of doing what you had to do that I described before, students can just take the DET at home and get a result in 2 days. And we're seeing that also we are changing lives for hundreds of thousands of students in India already. We grew a ton over the last year, over 80% year-over-year growth. And with this trend of studying abroad in India growing, we want to continue to serve students better. So that's a quick intro. I'm happy to talk more about any aspect of it that's more interesting to you.
Sure. So is this program also launched in other Asian markets other than India?
Yeah, so our product, similar to the language learning app, is globally available. It's accessible on the web. So students from all over the world are taking the DET to get admitted to a university of their choice. In Asia, India, well, globally, India is our number one market. In Asia, India is a number one market alongside China, which is another really big market by test volume. We are seeing tests taken from students in over 100 countries. And that's the power of our digital access, right? We're not limited by physical infrastructure. Students who live in a big city like Mumbai or Delhi can take the test. Students living in a very remote countryside village, as long as they have an internet, can also take the test. So we're seeing a vast range of test takers across all of the major countries in Asia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Thailand, you name it, every single country.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Wang. My next question would be for Rohelio. So if you could give me an understanding on the Duolingo ABC program and how is it looking at its expansion in India? and essentially what is exactly the market that you're looking at here in terms of what are you looking at its product expansion in the country, and what has been particularly its growth story over the past few months.
But yeah, thanks for the question on Duolingo ABC. And so just for the audience as well, so Duolingo ABC is an early childhood reading application that's mobile-centric, that focuses on children between the ages of 3 and 8 years old. And so we launched that product a couple of years ago. We made it available on Android last year, and we just very recently made it available in India. And it's been growing very rapidly during that time. And so we're very excited about it. We take a similar approach that we take for Duolingo in terms of for our main Duolingo consumer language learning app. It's a very effective product, but at the same time, it's a very engaging product as well too, where it helps people build that habit in the motivation to continue learning. And when we thought about expanding beyond, Duolingo ABC was the first product within a learning product that we built after our language learning product. And we thought about how we could have the most impact in the world. And we really have an ambition around like increasing English literacy rates. And so that was the original motivation for creating a product in this space. It is a new audience for us. It's younger children who in many cases they can't read in any language yet. And so it's a little bit younger audience for us, but we are finding that a lot of what we've learned from learners of all ages is working on ABC. And so we've just made it a really fun and engaging product. And a lot of what we've built for Duolingo in terms of our approach towards experimentation and launching new things and changing many things in the application, it's working for this younger audience as well too. So originally we just only launched in the United States just to test and learn and iterate and make the product better. And then now as we become more confident that it's working, that it's growing, we're launching in new countries like India, and it's really turbocharging the growth of the product.
And other than English, do you think there are other languages which are picking up in terms of its learning on Duolingo as well?
On the main Duolingo consumer learning app, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We're seeing broad growth across many of the languages on Duolingo, and both in India and then globally as well too, where English is the most popular language to learn globally. And so it makes sense to us that it's also the most popular globally overall, and then the most popular on Duolingo. But we're seeing growth across the languages. And at this point in our company's history, early on, we didn't offer as many languages as we want. We always wish we could offer even more and more languages, but all the most popular languages that are spoken globally, you can access on Duolingo. And even some of the languages where they might be endangered languages like Irish or Gaelic, there's actually more speakers of Irish on Duolingo than there are native Irish speakers in Ireland, as well as some that are just for general interest, where the HBO show Game of Thrones, we teach the language that's learned in that show too. And so we're teaching many different languages, and many of them are growing, not just English.
Okay, thank you so much. That was very insightful as well. My next question would be for Rohelio. So if you could give me an understanding on how are you looking at Duolingo's growth map in India in the next couple of years to come? Because right now is a very dynamic time for the edtech sector in the country, especially post-pandemic. The idea of online education has really reached roots, starting from school education to university, skill learning. So all kinds of educational skill development applications have really reached roots. So in terms of its growth in India, how are you looking at it?
Well, again, this is something I think it's an important market for us. Like India is a very large market, as you know, is growing, and is growing, like the base is growing very quickly as well. We have a lot of youth, a lot of young students, a lot of young users that are starting to use the app. I do think that the way that we're seeing the growth here in India is, for at least for now, our main goal is to actually grow the number of users that are using the product on a free basis as well. Because as you know, our business model is a freemium model where we give away the app for free, and the people can actually use it for free. And then there's a subscription model as well, but that's not something that we're incentivizing right now in this market. What we want to do is that we want to increase awareness of our app as well, and give opportunity to all the users to know about it, and that they can start using it to learn any language that they want. I think Bob can talk more about the growth in India as well, because he has been looking at it from a more like in-depth perspective, and I will let him talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, and let me know, Anisha, if there's anything else. Happy to complement Rohelio's answer, or I don't know if you want to move to other topics as well.
Yeah. So my specific question was that, are you being able to identify any specific opportunities in the Indian market in terms of scalability of the product, or let's say expansion of any specific language in the Indian population? So in terms of your growth story, how are you really aligning it with India? And what are the specific opportunities that you're finding for your product, for your company in India?
Yeah, good. It's a good question. And I think it really is that the foundation of our company is about providing greater access to education. And so it's a lot of the dynamics that we see in India apply globally, but maybe in even like a more interesting and more profound way in India too, because we've sought to put our product primarily on mobile devices, which is the most popular platform for accessing technology in the world. And in India, maybe it hasn't historically had the best technology infrastructure, but most people that we want to reach have access to a mobile phone. And so because we've put the platform there, and then as Rohelio was saying as well too, it's our core mission as a company to provide access to education, whether or not somebody can pay. And so we've built a business globally around subscription, but in a market like India, we're not focused for the next while on building a big revenue business. We're really in a moment right now where through word of mouth and just greater consumer awareness of our product, we want to increase the number of people that are using Duolingo. I'll say that globally, there's more than 60 million people who are using Duolingo on a monthly basis. And only about 7 to 8% of those people are paying for a subscription. In India, it's a fair bit lower than that. And we're not focused on that. Like I said, we're focused on already India is a top 5 market for us with regards to the number of people that are using our consumer language learning app. And that's really exciting for us. And we feel like we're just getting started in some ways. We think the opportunity is so big, largely because we make our product available on mobile devices and really focus on a high quality product. And because we offer the product for free too. And so those are just these like long-term powerful tailwinds that are going to help fuel our growth in India as well as globally.
And in addition, because you asked about our plans to grow in India, Bob covered the language learning app, which is our flagship product. And as you mentioned earlier, the Duolingo English Test is another product that we have. And I would say in India, the Duolingo English Test has a disproportionately larger role to play from a revenue perspective. This, like starting last year, but this year in the next couple of years, because of that secular study abroad trend. And so study abroad overall grew, I believe, over 60% year over year in terms of total number of Indian students who studied abroad in 2022. And that trend is only going to continue on the back of this growing middle income class and just increased global mobility overall. For the DET, the Duolingo English Test, we saw over 80% year over year growth in tests taken from India. And while, again, as we mentioned earlier, within testing, there have historically been very few options. We believe that by providing a radically more accessible and cheaper option, we will be gaining share in this market. We believe more students who are studying abroad will choose the DET over traditional options. And so not only is the market going to grow for India overall as more students study abroad, the DET will become more popular. And for us, we're investing heavily to build the awareness of the DET within India. We are experimenting with consumer marketing. For example, we just sponsored a college festival called Under 25 Under 25 Summit in Bangalore, where the three of us went for the first time. We all spoke to students there, and that was incredibly energizing. So we're going to do a lot of direct-to-consumer outreach to help students just become aware of this new option. And then we're also exploring ways to partner with companies here who are already serving students. And hopefully through that, we're going to be able to get the word out there for students and parents and even kind of educators here to know that there are new options now in the market and that maybe students can be better served with the DET than we have in the market today. So hoping to invest in a lot more to grow awareness and help people gain access to this incredible product that could change their lives.
Okay, I think I've pretty much covered all of my questions that I had to ask today. I just have one final question. It's about the Duolingo ABC program. So are you also looking at introducing this in schools, or is it going to continue being a service on the app?
It can be both. So as we focus on making our product available, we mainly do that through the major app stores, just so that anybody can use it. And then I don't think we would have a sales force that would establish direct relationship with schools, but our marketing team knows that there's a lot of reading education that happens in schools, very obviously. And we saw this happen for our main consumer language learning product as well. We initially built it for just the app store audience, anybody. And then we saw organic usage that was happening in schools. And so we built a lightweight schools dashboard to help provide basic customizations of our language learning product in schools. And so we think that a similar pattern could happen with our ABC, with our early childhood reading product as well, too, where the starting point for us and the majority of focus will be on the app. But then as we see increased adoption in schools, we are open to making slight adaptations to better serve that market.
Okay, so thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining today. I'm sure our audience is going to find this conversation to be very insightful and engaging as well. And like I already mentioned, Duolingo is already a very, very popular app in India, and it is being used across cities amongst various people. I personally have myself interacted with also earlier for several years now. So firstly, congratulations on that, and I'm much excited to see how the team continues to grow in the country.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.